Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only surviving, but thriving with the cosmic tides. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. It's so great to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's weekly astrological weather. I'm Amanda Walsh, the founder of Astrology Hub, for those of you who don't know me. And our weatherman this week is astrologer and astronomer Gemini Brett. He is absolutely an Astrology Hub community favorite. We love having you on this platform, Brett. Thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to the weather.
Me too. It is quite a week. Some storms brewing and some calm weather on the other side of it all, it seems.
All right. Well, let's start with the big picture theme. If you were to summarize the energy of this week with a theme, what would you say that it is?
I think individuate from hive mind or innovate for the hive's sake.
Individuate from hive. Wait, say that again.
Individuate from hive mind or innovate for the hive's sake. And it really depends on what kind of hive you're buzzing in.
All right. So either individuate from the hive that you're in or innovate for the sake of the hive, meaning like your community, essentially, right?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, larger communities, a lot of this, I think, is, what we are dieting, what we're receiving, like not just in our food, but everything that we take in and, how that has us buzzing. So it's a really scary thing to leave a hive, right? Or even for the entire hive to make a move, which is a thing. It's really cool with bees. They send a bunch out to check out new territories, and then they have this like dance competition to decide which place they're going to move to before they
just happened to us. Literally overnight, this entire hive of bees decided to hang out in the koa tree, and they're buzzing all of a sudden. And then they left like as quickly as they came. They left like just a day later or so. It was amazing.
Yeah, my understanding is some bees head out to check out a new zone for the hive to move to. And then they literally come in and they kind of dance like we're going to go over here and then we go there or whatever. They dance the story of the Exodus, I guess. And like a few different bees will dance the thing and like the best dance wins. And I think even when they like came to the tree and then they left, that's kind of part of the movement. Like that was one of the great dance moves. Now, anyone listening who knows more about bees than me, please in the comments educate me, right? Because that's a little bit ridiculous. I think I first read about that in The Shamanic Way of the Bee. I think it's Simon Buxton, right? That's a really trippy, really, really cool book. So anyway, yeah, I mean, you might be living in a hive that is your hive and you're loving it. And it's being stimulated in such a way to grow or even go. And that's wonderful. I think part of the kind of craziness of the last couple of years has been find your crew, find your hive. I mean, sadly, we're going to talk about Mars a bunch. Like, sadly, some of that's happened with, attack the people that aren't in your vibe or something like that, and maybe even being encouraged to do so. But I think it can be really helpful to see where people are at and like what resonates with you and choosing your crew. And it's okay if they're not the people you were born to or grew up with or whatever, So if you're in a hive that you love, what innovations can you bring to the hive to help it be an even merrier place with better honey? Right? If you're in a hive that's not happening, if they're telling you to be hive in ways that you'd prefer not to, like split. There's a different hive for you. And that, like part one, like individuate from hive mind. We really want to be careful and take a look at how we're being asked to think. Right? And that's like number one for me. And things that we've been warned about by great authors for a long time. And I want to actually recommend a book of the week, which is Sirens of Titan by the great Kurt Vonnegut, in which don't want to give too much away, but this is revealed very early on. There's like an army that is being trained on Mars to come take over Earth, and they all have antennas in their heads. And when the like signal comes on, they hear the drum beat, and very, what is it, onomatopoetically? I don't know if that's actually true, but the way that Vonnegut, who's just the best, writes this is rented a tent, rented a tent, rented a tent. And that's what they hear when suddenly they're going to get like, just, you know, they're going to come to attention and do all these things that they're not really aware of. And then there's this one cat who's like waking up to the whole trip. It's a really, really cool book. And there's another part in the book. It's been a long time since I've read it, but there's these beings who I think are called the harmonians that are like gentle and graceful and beautiful and in the flow. They just like swim in the cosmos. And that music is really alive at this time as well.
All right. So what are you looking at astrologically to say that this is the theme of the week for all of us?
So the big thing for me is Mars can join Saturn, especially where they are. They're squaring the lunar nodes. I know that's come up in conversation here at the Astrology Hub podcast, but Mars and Saturn can join about every 2 years. The last conjunction was March 31st, 2020. All right, so everyone like come here, be here now, and just let me say that date again. March 31st, 2020. And Mars and Saturn met at that time in the first degree of Aquarius, where Jupiter and Saturn were destined to meet some months later at the December solstice in 2020. And I mean, a lot of eyes were there, but I'll say that, you know, if you kind of tune into what was happening in your life at that time and everything that's happened since, it's been a long 2 years. I think you will be inspired to act in one of these ways of individuating from the hive or innovating for the hive, if it's the one that you dig. All right, on the other side of the puzzle, because that one's like, it's a lot of energy and it's not necessarily an easy energy, okay? It's a gift. But
when does it happen, Brett?
The Mars-Saturn conjunction specifically is Monday. It's today. It's I'm going to speak Pacific time zone because that's where I'm living. So please do your conversions. I think we're all very good at that now. So April 4th, 4/4/2022, which is this amazing thing. And it's 7 p.m. Pacific time. So it will be April 5th for many of you around the world. It's a very near occultation, which isn't just a conjunction in the chart, but like very close to like, you know, them covering one another. If you've been waking up before the sun and seeing this amazement of Venus and Mars and Saturn recently, you'll have seen in the northern hemisphere Venus moving above Mars and Saturn, and in the southern hemisphere Venus below the two, like closer to the ground for you. The Mars-Saturn conjunction is not like that. They're very close to an actual occultation, where if it was, Mars would actually hide Saturn from our view. So it's not an occultation. They're about a half a degree away. There's more to say about that, but that for me, and it starts the week, and it's the week, okay? It's a huge piece of it. Another piece is like the Pisces happening and this dream starting to come in. And I mean, I know Astrology Hub has a Pisces Jubilee, a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction Jubilee coming up, which I think is a very important dream to tune into. And gratitude and hope is a big piece of this. I'll read a little tiny thing I wrote for Monday, for today, that I imagine many of you are already feeling. But not only will we have Jupiter come into the same degree of Neptune, their conjunctions not yet, but when Jupiter and Neptune are in the same degree, the old word for this is partile. And also Venus will ingress Pisces this week. So this kind of triple conjunction-ish happening of Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune that will really be aligning at the end of April with all of the three kind of together. You're going to start feeling into that even more than it's already been since Jupiter's been hanging out. There's also, as you know, Amanda, I'm very much a visible astrologer, an astronomer astrologer. And if you're in the southern hemisphere and you've been waking up before the sun, it's possible and probably actually likely that you've seen Jupiter already reborn as a morning star. This is called Jupiter's heliacal rise. Pisces is very difficult to see on the morning side in the northern hemisphere. So I was just in Mexico. I actually extended my trip just to see Jupiter, and it didn't happen. And just because we don't see them doesn't mean they don't see us. And I left content with that truth. But in the northern hemisphere, it's trickier to see for all sorts of amazing astronomical reasons, morning stars in Pisces. So it will likely be this week where, if rain clears here in California, I will have the opportunity to first make eyes with Jupiter in Pisces. And this, in kind of an older astrology, Jupiter came into Pisces last year and then went back into Aquarius and now is back in Pisces, right? When Sun conjoined Jupiter recently, that's a significant statement, because though Jupiter spent some time in Pisces last year, there hasn't yet been a Sun Jupiter Pisces cycle. Like, we're in that now, and a significant part of the cycle, just like a new moon is like a no moon, and that next day in the sunset west you see the young moon, right? The first visible new moon, Diana's bow. It takes much longer for Jupiter to be reborn out of the fires of the sun, but that heliacal rise time, that like first sight, there's something in, well, at this time maybe in the story of Pandora's box, where there was a lot of challenging stuff that first erupts when we start looking into that, chaotic space. But at the bottom it said Jupiter stashed hope. And I think that this Pisces party is that happening, while it can certainly, and we should never really voice it without also stating the other side of delusion, escape, and I'll say manipulation, especially through the use of collective compassion, but very importantly, the dream, the vision, and faith. So let me just say this one thing, and then I'll open my ears, Amanda. And I'll say also, this speaks to something that happened for me during dreams this morning. Many of you would have been awake, but I don't know. I wrote 4:22 a.m. Pacific today, 4/4/2022, which is a lot of fun number play. But the Taurus moon at the time was square to both Mars and Saturn in Aquarius. In fact, there's an ancient term, Cameron Allen was talking about this last week, called besiegement, when a planet like that is casting a ray that lives between, I'll just say a rock and a hard place. But sometimes another planet will shoot a ray into that place to kind of break up the tension. And that was performed by the great gas giant guru, Jupiter at home in Pisces. And so the trip was this: between a rock and a hard place, let faith save the day. If you can't be here now, take the vow of following intuition to positive change. And for me, that's kind of really like the prayer for the week.
Can you repeat that, Brett?
Absolutely.
So this is the prayer for the week, something that you basically downloaded at 4:22 a.m., right? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this some days ago, but,
right. But at that time, okay, so great. So tell us what the prayer for the week is then.
Right. So it's, someone walks up in the dream and says, between a rock and a hard place, let faith save the day. If you can't be here now, take the vow of following intuition to positive change.
Okay, so we have this Mars conjunct Saturn, which is the major drumbeat of this week. This is echoing what happened March 31st of 2020, which for many of us, I mean, everybody can like basically put ourselves right back into March and experience that again. But the question is, are you ready to actually sort of leave whatever collective hive mind that you're in, and maybe you've been in since 2020, or maybe you've always been in? or are you ready to actually innovate, to change that hive, to actually bring that hive to another level?
And we are in an Aries month, right? Aries new moon. We're in Aries month, like the solar month, the sun moving through the sign of Aries. This is a huge piece of who are you in this mix. And if it's a good hive, you can be you without hiding, right? If you cannot be yourself with the crew that's around you, it is not your crew, and there's no doubt about it. If you're being yourself means like being antagonistic and like consistently fired up by the debate or the battle that you can have today, like that stuff has its place, no doubt about it. But if it has become your way of life, and that way of life has been promoted, you're in the wrong hive. And you can't tune into the gift of ease. And typically, you know, when we are in that place of like consistent fight, we're not able to receive the gift of the dream. We're not following the flow, right? And so when these signs work really well together, the intuition is celebrated, because you have this way of innovating the game, but it's not only the how you do it, but the when you do it. And that's having your finger on the pulse. And the pulse is offered by the heart. So this is maybe the most important thing I could say this week, besides that, you know, prayer, whatever that thing was called that I read, is if it's hard, like if you find yourself kind of in a lose-lose, or you think, or there's nothing you can do that's not going to upset somebody, or it just you're stressed, breathe in that moment. Like that's the space that it's kind of like that's where your intuition is going to come alive in a way that maybe you haven't heard since you were young and told not to believe in those things you saw in the woods or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it, when we're at this time right now, like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do. We'll stop doing and just start listening, and then respond naturally. Right. I think a lot of this time has also been on a higher level designed to remind us of innate abilities that the world paradigm that most of us were raised within, like said, are not a thing, including that gift of intuition.
The last thing I didn't ask you, on an intensity scale, what would you put this week?
It's high. It really depends on, you know, your own nativity, I will say, where these planets are aligning for you. I mean, I should have offered that the Mars-Saturn conjunction is happening at a very specific degree of the zodiac, as it always is. And that degree is 22.5 Aquarius. So you've got something in those degrees of the fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. This one's probably more alive for you, but you'll also find amazingly Jupiter in those same degrees of Pisces. And it's a story of tension and release. I tried to voice that when going through the signs, at least. So, but if we want a blanket number, it's like a 8 on the 10 scale this week. It's real. And I would encourage you to expect an event. Now, wait, hold on, because expectation is the enemy of experience, and experience is the gateway to life. So don't run away around looking for a thing. But if a thing happens, instead of shaking your fist to it, like embrace the opportunity of receiving a new congratulation that you are one that is choosing to follow the flow wisdom of your intuition. In that moment, say, I know, and then act upon the truth that you do. And I really feel that that's going to be something that resonates for a lot of folks who have their ears on our voices at this time.
Okay, I know you prepared specific guidance for each of the signs based on this bigger transit energy of the week. Would you be willing to share those with us now?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking mostly, by the way, and this is kind of, you know, quote unquote horoscopic astrology, like what's the big thing and how does that look from every ascendant? And you can do this from your sun sign, as many have, learned to do, or from your moon sign. And you know what, regardless of whether the signs hold planets in your chart or not, like your ascendant will profect through them over time. You might have moved to another location on Earth where this is your new ascendant, and we are all of the signs, we are all of the seasons. I think one of the reasons why we come together and celebrate the signs of the time and like the transits of the week like this is to kind of get out of our natal chart a bit. But let's also get back in. So, whether
So we're looking for our sun, our moon, or our rising.
Anywhere. You could do it from your midheaven if you want to know more about your work and your participation. I always write from the rising sign, and I will suggest the reason why sun sign horoscopes work when they're done right is because sunrise is a huge thing, and we can just draw houses from the sun. If you're familiar where the part of fortune or the part of spirit are in your chart, you can also do this there. Like if you do it from enough place, you just get them all, and that's actually better. Right? Because I think when astrology is done right, we should be all of these things. So I'm going to start with Aquarius, because for me, the main event really is this Mars-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, which is Monday. I was saying my election for this today is to have a tooth pulled. We could talk more about that in a bit if you'd like. So I'm starting with Aquarius, and the other bit is that this Mars-Saturn conjunction, they're also conjoined Juno. They're squaring the lunar nodes, south node of the moon now in Scorpio, and the north node in Taurus. And at the end of the week, starting Monday, I don't know who's doing weather next week, but they get to start on Monday with a full grand cross with the Leo moon.
I think it's Christopher Renstrom.
Oh, right. So your
Yes.
beautiful hands. Right. So, for Aquarius, take this personally. This is the first house. And that's what the first is, the star of the show, purpose, path. Right. So I think in that sense, it's like, just everything I've said so far, more than anything else, right? Like, does your path agree with who you are? And I just want to say, like, the most beautiful part of the path is you can't leave it. Sometimes we get in a rut, or we feel like we got off our path, just to be reminded that there's a path and we should be conscious of it. But it really is like, if anything I've said so far resonates with you, like the Aquarius place is, innovate kind of at all costs. You're here for a change. And there's a lot right now where I think we can very much feel stuck, and it doesn't have to be that. So the other piece of this is when I'm looking at Pisces and Venus coming into Pisces and Jupiter coming to, get very close to Neptune there. And this Pisces Jubilee, as Astrology Hub's calling it, which I love, right? For Aquarius, that's going to be happening in your second place. And so as I move through these, right, I'm going to go from Aquarius to Capricorn to Sagittarius, which might sound backwards for you, but what that allows me to do as an astrologer is move this Aquarius Mars-Saturn conjunction from the first house of the Aquarius chart to the second of the Capricorn chart to the third of the Sagittarius chart. And you might hear some flow there. And you'll also in this way just be encouraged to hear that, for example, while the Mars-Saturn conjunction is happening in Aquarius, so the first house for Aquarius, well, Pisces is the second. So that's where Jupiter will be. And in a sense, it's like if you know who you are, or if you choose to align to who you are, you will then receive the dream of loving yourself in a new way. I'm like literally talking about this as a gift of this week, should you choose to play along.
And this is for Aquarius or for everybody?
That's for everybody and for Aquarius specifically.
Okay. All right.
Cheers. So for Capricorn, what do you really need? Like literally, what are your true needs? And it might be a time to minimalize a little bit, or at least just really check in. And I will say the most important need that each of us have is knowing that we are worthy of life. That's like the truth of the second place. Once you've gone around the wheel a couple of times, and you're like, what is money? Well, what is like literally food? The other big piece of this, I think really importantly, is are you expecting others to have the same needs that you have? Because if you do, you're going to keep yourself from experiencing the opportunity to truly connect in community. The whole point of community is people have different superpowers, and those superpowers are actually born, well, not only through their charts, but through their needs and the way that we respond to them. And sometimes we really alienate ourselves, or put ourselves into this place of kind of hierarchy and like being in a community, but outside the community looking in, just because we expect that everybody should be the same that we are. And I think that's like a really big piece for Capricorn to touch into at this time. And all right, for Sagittarius, seek and speak truth regardless. Right. So this might be a week where you're not particularly liked. I would, let me give a caveat to regardless. Do not give advice to those who are not asking for it. But this is a time to stop pretending you are not who you are, or this is a fear you have, or this is a thought you have, or this is what you see, and it's a time to like really show it through sharing the gift of your wisdom and your voice. And yes, this goes for everyone, right? Okay, so Scorpio, remember where you come from. Grow from your soil. It's rare to find soil that doesn't have some contaminants in it, but that also shapes the tree in a really significant way. So you will likely have the opportunity, and maybe through like actual events, to revisit some of the trauma of your youth. I just remembered this lyric I wrote years ago, which is like the pollution of our youth only gives the sunset some pretty hues. And there's, right, so pollution's not good, right? But still, there's something in that. And I think for the Scorpio energetic, you can expect this week something to really remind you of something that did not work well for you when you were young, likely, or in your lineage, but you can revisit that, right? So that's, you're in this stressful place and say, oh wait, what is the dream that's being carried in this current? And it might be, oh wait, okay, I don't have to heal that for anyone else anymore. Or, wow, like that is the very thing that made me a mystic, that brought me into this creative space. So by the way, Sagittarius, I should have done this, or Capricorn, if you value that everyone else has their own needs, you're going to learn new languages. If Sagittarius, you are willing to speak your truth, you're going to find a new family. Right? Because you can certainly find those who aren't your family really easily when you speak your truth, but you'll find that people also come to you. For the Scorpio beings, like if you are willing to release yourself from self-identification of the difficulty, a new child will be born, like the child that would have been had you had all the great gifts that we want to see in the houses of every child. Okay. Libra, can I swear on this podcast?
Earmuffs. We need to put earmuffs over the kids if there's any kids listening.
I'll just do what Anna does. I hear this all the time. Not my favorite word. And I'm trying to swear less anyway. Take the freaking solo. And I'm speaking as a musician, right? Like sometimes we just want to, it's not a saxophone solo, like I'm in the saxophone section and we'll all play this thing together. They call it a soli, and it's great, but sometimes like you need to stand up and just rip. This thing is happening in your fifth house, and there's meant to be some tension there of like, how do you create? What are you willing to give birth to? And if you're willing to step up and show that, especially if it's not perfect, that brings you into the realm of practice. Like in a good and amazing way. Like when we want to do things to get better, not to get less bad, there's a really significant difference between those two things. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then like realms open up and you have to take a risk and show yourself to be in that place. Okay. So for Virgo, like practice, I just wrote too busy to meditate, ? This is not the week for that. And you know what? Standing in line, like, and hating life. Or yesterday, I was like detoured by this guy into a place that's a dead end. It's like a 1/4 mile dead end. And it's like, dude, like, why don't you set the cones back a block, where when you force people to go away from your project here, they actually have a place they can go? I was so angry, do you know what I'm saying? But what did I do? Like, I checked out a new place I hadn't seen. And like, that's an opportunity. That is meditation. We don't have to be in Lotus. And the way that we allow ourselves to practice brings to us like a true gnosis of what I have to give, and opens up the dream of better relationship, right? A huge piece of right relationship is you bring you to the we, right? And I think for Virgo, there's a good amount of opportunity in that regard. And all of these things, I think this week will likely be born through an opportunity that looks like stress. Okay, so for Leo, exemplify sovereignty. So don't point fingers at that thing, because it's likely you're going to see this outside of you. Set a good example. That sovereignty. Don't do it with words, right? Hey, you guys need to do this, right? Like, no, just be the thing, right? Be the flame that we can each ignite our own torch from. Like, sovereignty used to be this good word. And I wonder now, because there's been so much hive, you know? Every drone is amazing, right? So if you're gonna drone, like, be the best drone you can be. All right, so Cancer, I write, take off the jersey. Are you sure you're on the right team? And just because you have the Ray Bork jersey that your dad wore when he went to the Bruins games, doesn't mean you need to root for that town that you were born in. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, like, there's such a difference. This is like, so the sports metaphors actually work really well. There's such a difference between cheering for your team and cheering against the other team. So I like sports, which is this kind of, different thing for a mystic, right? But I've gone to this place, not always, but where I like watch myself watch games, which is one of the most powerful opportunities for self-reflection for me. Because I'll watch football and yell like, kill him. And it's like, dude, what? Like, you don't want that. You don't believe that. Like, what is that in you? Where does that come from? And then I can like watch myself for this hour and like put my hand on my fingers on my pulse, and sorry to like make that admission about me. I'm getting better. Now I try to just say sack that quarterback instead. But it's a really interesting thing. And it's like we get so attached to these teams. And it can be a thing that really keeps us from connecting to wider community. All right, so take off the jersey. That goes for all of us too. If you do, you will open your opportunity to be in a whole different school, right? So like I can't go explore a faraway land if I'm so stuck at home. Take off the jersey. All right, Gemini, what would Sifu say? I wrote Sifu, by the way, is, you might know the word sensei, which is a Japanese term. Sifu is its equivalent in Chinese. This Aquarius happening is in the 9th for Gemini, a place, well, traditionally it's the house of God. It's a difficult word for folks today. Traditionally, it's the house of astrology. It's the house of divination. It's the house of seeking, and it can be your GED, your PhD, whatever it may be, but it's also a place of teaching and teachers. And, this is a time where I think really powerful forces are coming together to whisper wisdom, and probably in a strange language. And for me, that was like Kung Fu when I was young. This cat would say the strangest stuff that really sticks with me today. Like, he didn't make it obvious. Right? He showed you the door and really the riddle that would unlock it. But as you kind of worked through that riddle, you found the entrance, and it was only yours, you know. And there's something I think so important about that. It's our study that will lead us to our true offering. So what are you studying? So many people are doing a job because that's their degree, right? Well, maybe that degree was just here to teach you that that's not you, and that's okay, even if you're in debt, right? So by the way, so let's get to Taurus. Does your work represent you? Look, there's an inherent square in the chart between the first, that's me, and the 10th, like how I show up and how I'm seen, because oftentimes we have to offer our energetic through a way that does not necessarily resonate with us, or so we think. Get over it. Like, that's the hugest piece. If you're on the wrong hive, like if you're doing the wrong job, you're in the wrong hive automatically. Right, as far as I'm concerned. So for Taurus, that's a huge piece. And then the cool thing is, when you show yourself, like when you actually do your thing, as crazy as you think it is, and there's no one around me, I hear this all the time, right? It's like, there's no one around me who likes astrology. Somebody's saying this to me, like in Paris, like, really? You know, but that's often the opportunity for the mystic to say, so what? I'm going to show you what I do, despite what you have to say. And then your crew comes gathering in. And so we get to Aries. You won't know your crew until you leave the dock. All right, so this is a weird thing to say, because you actually have to have the boat staffed before you go. But when the winds really blow, you know who's with you, and you know who's not. If you're just waiting to make sure you've got the right team before you play, the whistle blows and the game's over before you got in. And this is a really important time to do your thing, and then you find out who's with you. All right, and finally, Pisces, you must trust your intuition and act upon it if you wish to save the day by demonstrating faith. And we know you do. This is the big opportunity for those dreams that you see and speak to very much be realized. And it's, again, a thing that's done through example. So trust, keep your hand on your heart, offer love, right? And be that beautiful example to us. And as you are, like, then you will be reborn through this Pisces Jubilee that's aligning. So all these things go for all of us always. And I wrote this too. This goes for all of us. Stop smoking so much news. Okay. Thanks, Amanda, for entertaining all of that.
I wish I could go back to before you started going through all the signs and invite everyone to listen to all of it, no matter what your sign is. And I know you did in a way, but there was so many nuggets of wisdom in every single sign that is relevant, no matter what or who you are or what period of time you're in. It was so relevant and helpful. So thank you for that. And I know that was a special treat, because we don't actually normally go through all the signs on the weekly weather. So thank you for doing that, Brett. And I hope that each one of you got like a little bit of direction for how you can actually work with the overarching energies this week. Brett has mentioned this Jubilee thing several times. I just want to make sure you all know what it is. It is an event that we're doing, a premium panel and a guided community experience. We're doing it in a different way than we've ever done. It's a give as you wish event. It felt weird to like put an actual price with it. So it was like, you know what? Like, if you want to give nothing, give nothing. If you want to give something, give something. But, you know, it does take resources to put the events on. So if you want to give, awesome. If you don't, awesome. We just want everyone to be there, because there is this event coming up, the Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, the conjunction in Pisces, that is a once in a lifetime event. It really is this opportunity to connect with these higher ideals and these visions and these dreams, these innovations that you can bring to the hive. That's all happening. And this week, we're actually having the event. So it's the premium panel event featuring Divine Harmony, Linda Byrd, and Becca Tarnas on the 7th, on Thursday. And then the following week, we're doing a guided community experience that includes this musical talisman piece that is so cool. We're all going to actually contribute our voices at a very specific time. to this talisman that will become a musical piece that you can listen to harness this energy long term. You can play with it or not. You don't have to, but we're all going to sing a word, and the word is grow. And then that word grow, we're going to put it together in this musical piece. It can be directed towards your dream. So you're also going to learn how to create a Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces altar. And then you can listen to this musical piece that was put together at the exact moment and really harnesses the energy that we want to harness for growth, for our dreams. So I know it sounds super out there, but it's been so funny putting this event together because the whole event has come together in this way that really feels like the energy of this astrological transit. So it's all happening. You can go to astrologyhub.com/Jubilee. Again, it's a give as you wish event. So if however much you want to contribute to it, great. And that again is astrologyhub.com/Jubilee. You'll learn more about the exact details of what's included. But yeah, I know Brett's
Joji and that happening, some musical talisman.
It is Joe. Joe on our team, he reached out to me. He's like, Amanda, I have this really crazy idea. But I think it'd be really cool. And I read the idea, which is like, let's create a talisman, a group community talisman that we can all use that will really help us with the energy of this transit. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Awesome. Yes, let's do it. So,
and I'll say that actually at least 90% of people listening right now don't think that's crazy at all.
That's great. Yay. My crazy is your crazy.
Awesome. And do you mind if I share your rising sign?
Go ahead.
All right, which is Aquarius, right? Which really shows that thing I was saying for Aquarius, like, if you are who you are, then your hive is automatically you, right? So like you've built this thing up around you of people who believe. I just want to also support, when I was doing sliding scale some time ago, it's actually harder because of the ones and O's of the computer screens these days, I find, but I want to get back into it. I was advised like, hey, don't make that just for people like who can't afford to pay like your typical price, like let them pay more if they want. And that happened more than not, right? So it's like this interesting thing. A lot of folks aren't taking the classes and aren't in the inner circle and all that because we just don't have the time. And so there's so much, overwhelming opportunity for study and this great endless love of astrology. So this is probably a time where I bet you will be surprised / not surprised to see a lot of people really giving in support of what they're receiving and things like the weekly weather and whatnot. I want to give really quickly a couple of dates that will support that kind of Pisces Jubilee for y'all. So Venus ingresses Pisces. This is a big deal. It's the sign where Venus is said to be an honored guest. And that is Tuesday, tomorrow, April 5th at 8:18 a.m. Pacific time. This is the only one I got so specific with the time. That's like a really good time to drop in, welcome Venus to the sign. I would actually encourage you to wake up before the sun tomorrow and look at the beautiful beaming Venus and welcome her into this place of Pisces and ask her to bring that light to Jupiter and Neptune and come together in this Jubilee and really seed dream for us that will move like way deep into the future. Becca and Linda and Divine Harmony will speak so much about the timings of this, and it's kind of a rarity, especially where they're connecting. It's a big deal. So there's another one, which is that on April 8th, around 1 a.m. Pacific, so that's Friday, Venus's day, will be later in the day for most of you in the world. Still Thursday for you, Amanda. Jupiter on that Thursday or Jupiter's day will get into the same degree with Neptune. And this is kind of an announcement of their coming conjunction. So that's a good time to say a prayer. If you can see Jupiter rising before the sun at that time, again, more visible in the southern hemisphere, like know that Jupiter is directing you to Neptune you can never see. So I love working with the visible lights to like align my heart to the ones that I can't see with my eyes. There's another bit, which is when the Cancer moon, when the moon finds her way into Cancer, she's actually with Lilith at the time, which is the moon furthest from the earth. And for me, that's the soul's need to like stay connected outside of the garden with the things that are far away, the all of spirit of the one. And she sends right at that time a trine to Pisces Venus. This is Thursday, April 7th, 1:15 p.m. Pacific time. that is a really wonderful time to like sit and dream, sit and meditate. I actually encourage you to go to sleep if you have space to do so, and just like receive the vision. And then the final one I'll give on that tip is April 9th, Saturday at 8 a.m., when the Cancer moon then further in the sign will have trine Jupiter and Neptune and make a kite with the lunar nodes. I mean, a castle with Pluto and across the way in Capricorn. And it's a really powerful time to like tune into that dream vision, to the languageless language, more of like the floodlight consciousness than the spotlight consciousness. And just, I would encourage you to kind of speak, or even more interestingly, sing your intentions to stay as active in your learning of how to be the being that dreams at night than as you are the one that is awakened in day.
That's the day that we're actually going to sing the word. So everybody who participates in the Jubilee is on Saturday at Jupiter's hour. We're going to sing the word grow and then submit it. And then Joe's going to make the musical talisman out of all of our sounds together. So I love that you said that. That's the great, of course, Joe studies with you. So he knows that this is the right day to do that.
We study with one another. Joe's a really beautiful being. Many have heard his voice already, their voice. And yeah, I'm just so happy to know that the Astrology Hub team is like expanded in this other way. So many wonderful folks here in this hive. And it's such a treat for me to come buzzing by once again. It's been a bit. It's nice to have an opportunity to sit with you. Thank you, Amanda.
Any other transits for the week that you want us to pay attention to, or did we basically cover all of them?
Well, I mean, there's like specifics in it. Let me just like really quickly glance at my list here. Yeah, so Friday, April 8th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, Aries Mercury sextiles Aquarius Mars. And I really feel this is the empowered voice, right? Let me do it. Like, if you feel like you don't have those around you who are supporting your vision, what would you say if you did? And I bet you if you start saying it, you'll find your people.
It's so interesting, Brett. There's so many, we're all in different groups, right? We have this group here at Astrology Hub, and then you probably have your people you work with, and then you have your family, and then you have a group of friends, and there's all these different groups. And one of the things that I'm finding is that when you show up in your heart and in your authentic expression, you can be yourself in all those groups and be a little different. Like there's a little different flavor, but it's always you. It's always your resonance, your heart, but it like changes costume or a little bit, or it can adjust to the group itself. But I think if the part of you that feels true and resonant all the time shows up in all those places, that's when it feels the most fulfilling. That's when it feels the most like, oh, I'm seen, I'm appreciated. And it's when we show up with like with an agenda or judgment, or feeling like anticipating that we can't be who we are because of whatever's happened in the past when we have shown up who we are, but we get rejected. And so then we're carrying that pain into the situation. That's when I think the resentment builds and the toxicity builds, and you feel like you can't be yourself. But I've just been super aware lately of the places where I come in with an expectation that I can't be who I am. And that creates like this ripple effect of an energy that just isn't, it doesn't feel good for anybody. It's actually hard for me to verbalize what I'm saying, but I hope that makes sense.
I hear you. There's a post I see often, which I, on one level, love, because people are overcoming their fear and sharing. And that's the post. I never share, I never speak. And so I'm doing it today, which is great because we can say yay, or it's often like, oh, this is what I've done to come through, and like the tribe can come help, which is beautiful, right? But, just show me that picture you took yesterday. or show me that painting you made, or you know what I mean? Like make a risk of creativity. So there's two more transits I'll actually share. One is like Moon comes into Leo. Next week it starts with this full fixed grand cross. Like that'll be a whole nother level of the thing. But some of the energies that are like building right now are separating. But there's this time, it's Sunday, April 10th, 11 p.m. Pacific, right? So for some of you, this will be next Monday already, but it's a Leo moon, Aquarius Vesta, Taurus Uranus T-square. At the same time, moon is trine Chiron and Aries. And it just reminds us, I think, of the amazing truth that we are all individually in our own kind of innovative practice. And if we feel stuck, creativity is the way through. You know, like get over the trip that you need to be good to be an artist.
Huh.
And you know, and look at all the fire there. Like, well, this is like some Burning Man stuff, right? Like, if you're having a hard time creating because it's not good enough to hang on the gallery wall, and therefore you're not an artist, like make something and burn it as an offering to spirit, or just make something as an offering to spirit. Like, and see where you are in your judgments of self, but burn that too. Just create for the sake of creating. That's what will see us through. You know, that's the correct response to strife and challenge, is to create. Creation is the greatest innovation. And our individual creations lead to collective innovation every time. That's how this thing is designed to work. So one last one here, which is Mars conjoins Juno in the sign of Aquarius at the same time that Moon opposes Pluto. Cancer moon opposite Capricorn Pluto. This is Saturday, April 9th, 6 p.m. What are you married to? Like, it doesn't have to be a person. This is like earlier when I was talking Cancer, this was take the jersey off. Like, what are you so married to and why? And I'm like, I'm not talking about your spouse, but it might be time to leave the bum. You know, like if it doesn't work for you, if they're not supporting who you are, then why are you married to it? And it might be because you were told it was the right thing to do when you were young, or maybe even when you were old. Is that true for you? So we can't tell spirit we're ready to be ourself without showing spirit that we will no longer be who we know we are not.
Wow. Okay. So what I've done this time, normally I go through and do a summary of all the different things that we talked about. For whatever reason this time, and I'm going to trust my intuition because that's what we need to do this week. What's coming through is actually just like key words or phrases that have come up consistently that I'm hearing in all the different things that you have shared. And some of those words and phrases, a lot around authenticity. So finding that frequency or resonance that is you and really broadcasting that in order to attract your beehive, or even maybe repel the hive that you're in, because maybe that's what needs to happen, right? But when you're broadcasting that frequency without censoring it, without, stifling it, then the people are drawn to you and you're drawn to the place you need to be. That also comes in with truth, like being in that place of truth. A lot about choices, about where you are. So taking a very real inventory of where you find yourself, what groups, what communities, what marriage, what job, what places you find yourself, and really taking a very truthful and again, authentic inventory of, are those the places I want to be? Are these the places that really support me in the direction that I'm going?
Yes.
The weirdest thing is that is a phone that never rings. I've never
not even plugged in.
It's literally not plugged in. I am like really tripping out right now. I'm really sorry. Hold on.
I think you should get it.
I should get it and see who's calling.
I really do.
It's weird. Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Let's do some science. I'll keep talking to these folks while you do. Oh, actually, let's listen in.
I missed it.
We missed it.
I missed the call. Wow,
Yeah.
you guys, that was really true. Okay, I don't know what that
That's
means, but maybe
awesome.
that was just meant to punctuate what I just said. Okay. The other thing that's come up a lot is dreams, being open to those dreams, being receptive to those dreams, going out and looking at the sky in the early morning, looking at those bright lights and really attuning your heart with them and allowing to receive messages and dreams that are coming through that are unique and authentic to you. Last week with Cameron, we talked about your unique code, your electrical code, your wiring and what it's meant to bring in this lifetime and how we're having these opportunities to really connect and attune to those right now. But then we have to have the courage to actually broadcast them, like broadcast that frequency, right? Okay. There's a lot of theme around this individual versus collective. And, where are you supported in bringing your individuality to the collective? And where are you not? A lot
Let me
around it.
just put one piece in there, right?
Yeah.
It's when you're in the collective, you're meant to be within, there is no verses.
When you're in.
When you are within the hive where you're meant to be, there's no versus, individual versus
Right.
the collective. Do you see what I mean? So
Yes.
being with the team that celebrates you, it requires you to show yourself. And you, in that summary, says a really important thing, right? Like you might agitate the people around you if they're not the people you're meant to be with. And just owning that and moving along, which takes a lot of courage, but it's a time to be courageous.
It does. And the only way you can know if that group that you're in is the one for you, where that does support your individuality, is by broadcasting your individuality. And actually, I'm in a group and this one individual just said, here's what I need. I don't know if you all can give me what I need, but here's what I need. And I'm just going to put it out there. And it was like, thank you for that. Because now I can I can come to you and say, you know what? I'm not sure I can give you what you need. And thank you for telling me that. And then that person is freed to go and be in a place where he can be in his individuality, and we're free to continue with whatever that is that we're doing. So but it was all in that courage to say very vulnerably, here's what I need. Are you my peeps?
So
right?
awesome. And if we can do that and also not judge people who choose not to be aligned to that.
Yes.
That is like such a mature and amazing statement of knowing self, growing self, and aligning to a community that will allow you to be you.
Totally. Okay. A lot around this innovation and creativity, like bringing those things, if it's the right time to bring them. I love that too. I'm in another group where someone's bringing a lot of innovation and I can feel that the group isn't ready for it. Like they're just not there yet. It's not what they're concerned about. And so that creates this tension. And if this individual waited like a couple of years, like the vision's so clear to this person. So they just want to bring it all, but it's not the right time yet. Right? Okay. Create for the sake of creativity. Right. I'm so happy you said that. Recently, I have had such an impulse to create art, which is it's like hard for me to even say that because I have never in my life felt like I am artistic or worthy even of hanging out with artists, like people like you, Brett, that create music and poetry and all these things. I'm always like, wow, that is cool. And I just don't consider myself in that camp. So I'm having to face all that judgment and self-criticism. What does that even mean? Why are some people worthy of creating and others not? And am I willing to create for the sake of creation and burn that judgment and not have it needs to be a thing that I even show anybody ever. But there's something in me that wants to be sung or wants to be drawn or wants to be written, and just do it. And who knows?
That force wins. When I talk 1, 2, 3, I always speak in my own realm of there's no saxotone, which by the way is the 4, without a saxophonist and a saxophone. Right? I cannot make saxophone without a horn, and a horn can't do that without a saxophonist. The 3, the Holy Ghost, is the hidden thing, which is the need for the 2 to come together to vibrate the medium. And so that need will overwhelm you, right?
Right.
If ignored, it can also make you sick, right? So we are here to be the reeds of, well, I'll use a harsh word for some, like God's horn, you know what I mean? And not allowing ourselves to like just give birth, right? Is I think denying the reason why we are here.
I love that. Thank you. All right. What are the rules of the game that you're in? Do you want to play those rules? Do you like those rules? Or do those rules stifle who you are inherently? Can you innovate within the rules and feel great about that? Or do you need to go play another game? And show spirit. What did that mean? I wrote show spirit.
Oh, so show spirit, you're ready to be yourself.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
By not being who you're not.
You're not, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just go back to if you in the inner circle, if you were in the inner circle last year and you watched my profections class, you know, I just gave myself as this example and got really minute, like day by day with it. And it's a crazy thing. But a couple of weeks ago, before I left for Mexico, I had Mars opposite my natal Saturn. And a crown that I've had for probably 30 years, which is a Saturn thing, fell out. And for this Mars-Saturn conjunction today, I'm going to get the tooth taken out. So Mars separates and Saturn is structures, including bones, and the teeth are the tips of the bones. So this is one of the cases where a really literal thing, the reason why I mentioned profections is I'm in a Mars year. And so Mars is said to be really ramped up. And maybe you heard more Mars than was necessary today as a result, by the way, but maybe not. Maybe that's why I was invited at this time to come in, and I lit a Mars candle for us on the way. And I think that, you know, we don't have to be at war to be a warrior, I should say. And you know, that's actually a really weird word. I want to use that. Like, being yourself does not take you away from grace, beauty, or love. It brings you into it. And that takes a ton of faith and a ton of trust, because you can expect, as you choose to shine your own light into a room that's not ready for it, some difficulty on the way to finding a place where folks are beaming just in that same way. And we've all, like, this whole madness has been leading us there. So fly that flag.
I love it. If you want to find out what year you're in, so Brett said he's in a Mars year, and the profection technique actually tells you what year you are in for every year of your life. You're in a different year. So you could be in a Mercury year or a Venus year or a Sun year. So that is an actual astrological technique that Brett did teach to our inner circle, but we do have the mastery class available to any of you who want to dive deeper into that. You can go to astrologyhub.com/profections. That's astrologyhub.com/profections. We also have an awesome mastery class on astrolocality with Brett. That's astrologyhub.com/astrolocality. So if you're interested in finding the most auspicious or best places on the planet to live based on your chart and based on the astrology of that area, you can learn how to do that with that class. We also have the amazing course we did with Brett that is sacred astronomy for astrologers. So if you like the sky stuff and you're like, God, I want to know how I can connect with the actual astronomy of the sky and how I can bring that into the astrology that I practice. So when I look at charts, I'm like, not just looking at flat charts, I'm thinking of how the sky actually is and how that impacts the chart. Then that's an amazing class for you too. That's available at astrologyhub.com/astronomy. astrologyhub.com/astronomy. Anything you want to add there?
Well, that they like this will all be longer than they were meant to be. You're going to receive a lot of information from all of those transmissions. And it might be that you are living in the wrong where for you. It might be that your crew is literally just elsewhere, and the astrolocality techniques are amazing. And so with like the profections, there are times, this is the oldest timing technique. Directions, profections, and transits go all the way back. And it's an elegant, beautiful, kind of simple. And like my friend David J's lyric, it's as simple as a flower, and that's a complicated thing. There are just levels and levels and levels, and I tried to show a bunch of it in a bunch of examples. And I live by it. I've really come to embrace it. So I hope you will enjoy those spaces if you go. I guess the last thing I'll say is a sacred astronomy thing. It's a lot easier to engage with the evening stars. The sun sets, it's beautiful there. The pollution of our youth only gives the sunset some pretty hues. It's a wonderful thing to see, and the stars start twinkling, especially those ones that are moved that we call planets, right? Morning stars, and everything's on the morning side at this time. Well, not Mercury, who we can't see, and not the moon. But anyway, it requires some effort to get up before the sun. And you might not see what you went to, and then you might feel like you lost. No, the thing is, like, it will keep you like inspired in the morning, like the rising sun. It's so healthy to watch the sunrise, and a little bit tired throughout the day. You might be so inspired that you don't feel tired, or you might be both, which is how I'm typically living if I wake up to see the morning planets. And in that kind of tired space as we're moving throughout our day, you don't want to do it too much because it can be bad for health, but it can be wonderful for the visions to come through during like your waking state. So that's a huge piece of this, remembering to sleep, remembering to dream, and remember that you can dream also when you are awake. And that helps us awaken in the dream called reality.
Thank you, Brett. My breath has been taken away the last few days, waking up and seeing Venus. It's just like, oh, whoa, you are so pretty. You are so beautiful. I see why people sing about you and paint you and write poems about you. It's breathtaking. So highly encourage you to do that if you're inspired to do so. Brett, thank you for being here with us this week. Thank you for shining a light on all these amazing opportunities that the astrology is presenting to us. And thanks to all of you for being here. This week is the Jubilee. It's at least the premium panel part of it. So if you would like to listen to Linda Byrd, Divine Harmony, Becca Tarnas give their downloads on what this Jupiter-Neptune in Pisces conjunction is offering to all of us in terms of opportunity, which is very big. It's arguably the biggest transit of the year, and it's definitely a once in a lifetime astrological event. The last time it happened was 166 years ago. It's not going to happen another time in our life. And it really is an auspicious time to be connecting with those dreams and visions. So if you'd like to do that together, which we love to do at Astrology Hub, come together in community and really dream a new dream together with our individuality intact. Brett, I love that you said it doesn't have to be a versus. With our individuality intact, contributing to the community, contributing to the group energy, we would love to have you there. That's astrologyhub.com/Jubilee. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. And thank you as always for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you at the Jubilee, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.